If I could, I'd like to be a great big movie star. Overnight sensation. Drive a big expensive car. Man, this movie right here. I just okay, let me get started. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the Cinematic Soul podcast, where we discuss all things black cinema, black actors, and black magic. I'm your host, E, and today I'm here to talk to you about a movie that I hold near and dear to my heart. A movie that needs no introduction, but today we are discussing 1994's Crooklyn, the Spike Lee original joint. I've been waiting to do Crooklyn since I started the podcast last year. I was going to come out the gate with it, but I was like, I want to build up. I want to build the audience. I want to lay the groundwork first before talking about that, because that movie on a grand scale just means so much to me. Like, I'm not even going to sit here and pretend like this is neutral territory for me, because it's not. It's not. I love this movie. I have always loved this movie. I grew up with this movie. I remember being a little boy and my mom would put it on. We would just watch it. Like, it wasn't some big announcement. We just watched Crooklyn, the VHS. Shout out to VCRs back in the day. We were just watching Crooklyn, and it would just be on, and it would mean so much to me even as a kid. And that's how you know something holds weight. If your childlike mind can capture it and take it all in, whether you know what's going on or not, if you will sit there and enjoy that work, it has to be special. I'm talking me, my sister, my mom, cousins, uncles, no matter who it was. We'd be just watching this movie, laughing and talking and just taking it all in. It became part of the air in the house, in my grandma's house on 71st and May. Shout out to Chicago. I can quote this movie, I kid you not, from top to bottom, from start to finish. And I am not exaggerating. If you know me, if you know any of my family, ask them about Crooklyn and how I feel about Crooklyn, and they will tell you he don't play around with that movie. Like, from the opening scene, all that chaos and the Brownstone, I love all of it. And I didn't realize until I got older how much it shaped the way I look at movies as a whole. Like, Spike Lee has several films. Obviously, he's one of the GOATs in the filmmaking business. But this one, for me, just hits different for several reasons that we're going to get into. This movie just feels cinematic. And that's why we're here. Let's start with the house. The famous Brownstone in Bed Stuy. 7 Arlington Place is the address. I remember the first time I realized that was a real place, I wanted to go so bad, and I did end up going. But the problem is, when I went, it was summertime. I didn't think about that. I was just happy to go be in New York and possibly go see the area. When I tell you it was crowded, because it was like July and everybody was outside in New York. So everybody who was a tourist wanted to go and see the house, like me, and the locals were, for some reason, over there too, just in that area. So I couldn't get close to it, because I'm the kind of person where if there's a line that's too long, I just lose interest, even though I did want to go. That line, when I say it was wrapped around the corner just to go sit in front of the Brownstone, it was wrapped around the corner for hours. And I was like, I'll come back someday, hopefully. I still haven't gone back yet. That's on my bucket list of things to do. But I just had to see it for myself. And I will, when I get some more patience. But the fact that it exists still to this day is amazing to me. Like, you can walk past it, and that just hit me all at once when I saw it. When you watch movies like this, especially as a kid, it feels like it belongs to you in a way, because you've seen it so many times on screen that feels like your house, like your neighborhood. And Arthur Jafa's, he just shot that with so much care. Spike Lee films all the time like have these different shots in various angles, but the way he shot certain scenes in this just told me that they were paying attention. They wanted to send a message, and I got it. Message received. The film is shot in 1.85 in several scenes, and that to me feels grounded. It feels intimate. Nothing too glossy or fancy Hollywood shit like that. It was very intimate. Like, you could see the sweat on people's faces. You could see the heat in the rooms, the fans blowing the air, all these things. Nate throwing up the Black Eyed Peas, like all this stuff was very detailed. And I really respect and appreciate that, because it goes a long way for viewers like me who look for every nook and cranny and try to find every single thing I can find to please my mind. This movie did that, and this movie still does that when I watch it for me. You got the kids running through these tight hallways and small rooms, voices bouncing off the walls, music playing from outside from somebody upstairs. Shout out to Tony Eyes. It doesn't feel staged to me. Like, it feels like a real place, a place that's remembered. And I think that's important, because this movie moves like a memory moves. At least in my brain it does. They don't rush certain scenes. They don't blow past these parts. They show you all the good, the bad. They show you the neighborhood people, the little girls playing double dutch. They show you all that stuff. It looked funny. It looked stupid. So look at yours. You know what I mean? They show you all that and give you all this goodness that is real life stuff that happens. They just let life happen. And I remember as a kid, I didn't think about cinematography, right? I didn't know what cinematography meant. I just knew it felt right. But now watching it as a grown man who looks for certain things, I see what Arthur was doing. He let Brooklyn breathe. Sometimes you just gotta let it breathe. I can't get too far without talking about my favorite character in this movie and my first experience of viewing Delroy Lindo as the amazing actor that he is and has been for my entire life. Let's talk about Woody and that character. As I said, this was my introduction to him as an actor, an actor. I didn't know who he was. I was a little kid. I wasn't studying actors. I just knew that he was a dad. And this guy who is wearing these big clothes and he's sweating all the time, like me, might I add, playing his music with his cigarettes at the piano, writing bad checks. He felt real to me. The hunger he had for music, the way he talked about it, the way it was in his brain, the way his eyes would light up when he was at the piano, when he was talking about the music, even when it wasn't working out. That's his art. And sometimes you can't explain art to people who don't get it, but it's precious to you. And it was precious to him. And I want to talk about that because Woody believed in himself. Like, he knew he was talented, but as most artists find out at some point, if you haven't found out, good for you, because that means things are going well. But usually, the money isn't always coming in. at least not for a while. The gigs aren't turning into security, especially when you have bills, you got kids, and that part is the heavy part. That pressure builds. Like, you see it in the arguments with his wife Carolyn in the movie. You see it in the way he defends himself, how he defends his work. He wants respect for his work. You see it in the pride. And as a performer myself with a background in theater and singing, dancing, that part sits with me even more so today. The feeling of knowing you have something inside of you that fucking matters, but the world hasn't caught up to it yet. The world hasn't heard you the way you want to be heard quite yet. And Delroy, I think, captured that person, that character, that being perfectly. He doesn't make Woody a villain. He doesn't make him a hero, because he's neither of those to me. But he's a human. And I remember watching certain scenes, like when he dragged Carolyn down the stairs, when he was sitting there writing those bad checks. And I felt frustrated with him for certain parts, then feeling for him. And then going back to being frustrated, like, dude, all you had to do was just help her out. I get all sides of it. And that's why I feel like he has such a layered performance, and he's a layered actor in himself. Like, Delroy Lindo, man, big ups to you, period. Because even now, after seeing him in so many movies, like most recently in Sinners as Delta Slim, that role, I can watch Delta Slim scenes over and over and over again and not get tired. The scene in the car where he's talking about his friends who, you know, had their issues back in the day and how one of them got killed and they cut off his manhood. Just the emotional depth that he can bring to all these roles, the Five Bloods. He is just, the more I live life and watch movies and see him act in these roles, I gotta say, he's probably in my top 5 actors of all time. And that's big for me, because if y'all can't tell from me, I judge things sometimes critically and harshly. And if I love everything you do, or almost everything you do, then you have to be special. And I think he is a special kind of actor, an actor's actor. And that's how deep this performance sits with me. My childhood mind, my teenage mind, my adult mind appreciates all of it. And I appreciate Delroy Lindo. Now, we can't talk about characters and actors in this movie without talking about Carolyn, Alfre Woodard's character. She is, without a doubt, the backbone of that house. She was firm, loving, tired as hell, overworked, beaten down by the kids mentally and physically, but she was also sharp when she needed to be. There's this steadiness to her, right? And I remember when she got sick, how the tone shifted. And that's important to mention, because this is a semi-autobiographical piece about Spike Lee's family and, you know, what happened to his mother and how his father was. So that part is very important. The movie doesn't announce the change when it happens, but if you pay attention, the tone is different. It just changes. And as a kid, that part confused me at first, because I didn't know what was happening. I just know it wasn't funny anymore. I wasn't laughing anymore. It felt unfair. And it is. As an adult, though, it hits differently, because when you're young, when you're watching this movie from childlike eyes and a childlike mind, your mother feels permanent, right? Like, she's not going anywhere. Mom is mom. And then one day when you get older, you realize she's not. And that's something I've battled with for a long time, you know, with the loss of family members and losing my godmother a couple years back, this is something that I think about often. You know, my mother is doing well currently. Shout out to mom. But I'd be a liar if I said I didn't think about Crooklyn and how everything was going well, and then they lost their mom one day. One day she got sick. She got sicker. She got sicker. But she was still trying to be mom while fighting through the cough, while fighting through the not being able to breathe or just even sit up straight in her chair. I think about these things. And that stretch of the movie just gets quiet for me mentally and emotionally every time I watch it. Like, I watched it last night, and the scenes where you can tell she was starting to get sick, I couldn't hold it together. I'm not gonna lie to you. I shed a couple tears because I feel that emotion. And I think the movie wants you to feel that, and they portrayed that on the screen excellently. Alfre Woodard carried that role. You just gotta sit with it. And that's why this movie stays with people, because you feel all these emotions and they let you sit with them for a while. They don't explain how you should feel. They say, this is what's going on. You can take it or you can leave it, but this is how it is. This is real life. This movie understands that you can't really explain grief. You have to understand grief without turning it into a speech or a woe is me. Life is hard. And sometimes that shit just ain't fair. I think it's cool to talk about the movie from Troy's perspective, because the movie is based on Troy's perspective. Zelda Harris, shout out to her, played Troy, the sister, the sibling in the family who's probably going to take mom's place, unfortunately, some would say, in the house. We see everything through her lens, the teasing from her brothers, the nickname Troy the Boy. They were dogging their sister out, man. But that's real. That's how it was back then. That's how it is nowadays. Like, me and my older sister, I gave her hell, and vice versa. I had the jokes for her. She had the jokes for me. But at the end of the day, we will fight for each other. We will have each other's back like no other, because that's my ride or die. But as kids can be kids, right? They had the comments about Troy's body. She went in the bathroom, and tried to stuff tissue in her shirt to make her chest look bigger. Just all these things. It's awkward, but it's real. That's real life, man. And I remember relating to that feeling of her not fitting in neatly into the family, because she wasn't what they expected her to be, what people expected her to be. And I feel the way about myself and my family and my inner circle when I was a kid. I knew I was the person who stood out. Like, I would have times where I fit in, but overall, I was like, I'm just here trying to fit, but I don't fit perfectly. And it didn't get until about after high school where I was like, you know what? I might not fit perfectly in how that is, scripted to be. But that's okay. I don't have to. And then we got to talk about when Troy goes to Virginia, because that's important. When Troy goes to stay with Aunt Song, the whole visual language and tone shifts. Like, it's still 1.85, right? But Spike and Arthur, you can tell they use lenses that stretch the image. And when I was a kid, that was so damn confusing to me. Like, I was like, why does this scene? I would pause it and see if it would get unstuck, because I thought something was wrong with the VCR, but it wasn't. They wanted you to view those scenes from that lens for a certain reason, right? The faces looked narrow. The heads were small. They were standing on the edge of a cinemascope frame. It was kind of uncomfortable to watch for some parts. But that was intentional. That was to make you feel that Troy didn't belong there. This was a new scene for her, a new way of living for her. The house is clean, it's spacious, it's controlled. Aunt Song was crazy as hell, but she was different as well. She wasn't like her mom. The image feels off, but that's all on purpose. That's all intentional. They're using the lens to show her emotional state, her growth. Like when you look at Brooklyn, for example, right? Crooklyn, shout out. It felt open. Like it was alive. There was the music outside. Virginia felt tight. It felt strange. You got the 1, 2, 3, the devil's after me. Like it was all very different to Troy and to us as the viewers. But you know something's wrong before anybody says it. That's what I call direction, crafting a masterpiece. And I love that Spike Lee trusted the audience to get it. And even if they didn't get it, that's too damn bad. Because I'm keeping it this way for a reason. I'm not explaining the shit to you. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, it's not for you. And I rock with that. Like I started off the episode singing the song from the stylistics. The music in this movie just sounds like home. This soundtrack is ridiculous, man. Like you got the Crooklyn Dodgers, the Staples Singers, who else? Sly and the Family Stone, Curtis Mayfield, the Jackson 5, Stevie Wonder, Isaac Hayes. Shoot, what's my guy's name? Jimi Hendrix. Hey Joe. Now some of his songs weren't on the actual soundtrack because of licensing and things like that, but they were in the movie. You know, the scene where you see my boy Isaiah Washington getting arrested. They got the Jimi Hendrix playing in the background and it's like slowed down. All that stuff is a reflection of the choices that were made musically. I remember those songs playing in those scenes and it felt like they belonged there. They were there for a reason. It wasn't just here for like nostalgia or here's a random song from the 50s. No, they were intentionally placed and you knew certain scenes. Like RuPaul, for example, when he was in the store, shout out to RuPaul. And the song that was playing, I never go back to Georgia. It was all intentional, man, and it all made sense. They were actually paying attention. They wanted us to pay attention. Like the songs were in that house. They were in the store. They were on the street. They were in Virginia. They were a part of life. And music is a part of our day-to-day life. Like this sounded like somebody's real record collection in the 70s. The summertime flow, the summertime feel. And music like that carries emotion without making necessary dialogue. I didn't need him to say, hey, I'm playing this song for this reason, and here's why you should feel it. I can feel it. I can process what's happening in real time, and that is very important to me. Like there's scenes in this where the song is doing the heavy lifting. The song is doing the storytelling. And that's why this film to me feels so layered, because they take that time, make that point to drive it home. And that was necessary. In talking about the cast, there were so many amazing people in this movie, in this film. Like I said, we had Alfre Woodard, we had Delroy Lindo, Zelda Harris, Spike Lee as Snuff, you know what I'm saying? David Patrick Kelly as Tony Eyes in his little quick scenes he was in with those shoes. If I ever find that you change at any time, it's not unusual. like these actors, man, Chris Noyes, my guy from Sesame Street, like Nate, Vondi Curtis Hall, just outstanding from top to bottom. But in that, I want to talk about some of the cast who we lost along the way since the movie came out. Frances Foster, she played Aunt Song. She passed away actually a few years later in, what was it, 1997. A film, a TV, a stage acting legend who was in different ensemble companies in the 1940s and 50s and 60s. She had a legacy that can't be replaced. And also, I didn't know this until I was about 21, because I was just like Googling stuff one day about Crooklyn, because like I said, lifelong love for this movie. So I was just Googling one day, and I found out that Carlton Williams, who played Clinton, passed away in 2003 from complications of sickle cell. And watching him now, like watching his character, knowing that he's no longer with us at the young age that he lost his life, it just hit different. Like, he brought that big brother energy for real. Like, he was loud, he had the glasses, he was watching the Knicks. Like, he was watching the Knicks no matter what. Walt Clyde Frazier. He was annoying, but he's a real person. And the movie freezes that moment. The movie says he's always going to be that kid. He's always that brother who you love, but you want to smack upside the head sometimes. That matters to me. And I hope that Carlton knew that character that he played will be with us for the rest of our lives. At least for me it is. I will never forget his character. The way he performed, the way he did those scenes, the emotion that he made you feel. Whether it was laughing, whether it was uh-oh, or whether it was, boy, what the hell is wrong with you? He made you feel all that. And I want to say salute to him and rest in peace. This movie still matters to me for several reasons. So apparently, it's crazy to me to find out this, but when this came out in 94, people didn't really know what to do with it. Like, at least some people didn't. But there's a reason why. They all expected Spike Lee to be loud, political, Malcolm X, do the right thing, School Days. He's confrontational, right? He's that director. But instead, with Crooklyn, he gave us family. His family. A summertime feel, the sadness, a little girl just trying to grow up and live life in Brooklyn, New York. And I think time has been kind to this movie, and I appreciate that, because it wasn't received like it should have when it came out. But over the years, from the rewatches with your family and the friends and the jokes spreading along, I think that really helped it become what it is today in 2026 for several people. A lot of people rank it high in his catalog. And like I said, I kind of have to agree, man. I'm putting Crooklyn in Spike Lee's top 3. Hell, maybe top 2, but that's another discussion for another day. And we don't have time for right now, because I would be here for 2 hours breaking down every film, why they should be higher or lower. What makes Crooklyn even more powerful to me, though, is that it's rooted in Spike Lee's real life. He wrote this with his sister Joy and his brother. A lot of what we were watching was pulled from their childhood life in Brooklyn, New York. The Lee siblings, they took their thoughts and memories and they put it all on screen for us to partake in. You got the games, the arguments, the neighbors, some who they said were real, they just changed the names, obviously. Even the grief of, as I said earlier, losing their mom, unfortunately. And they shaped it into this fantastic film. So Joy originally had the movie and the story under a different title, right? It was called something else at first. And it was her way of honoring their mother, And you can feel that. Like, this doesn't feel like somebody imagining a family. It feels like somebody remembering one. And that's why it holds up to me. It's specific. It's personal. It's not trying to represent everything for everyone, because every story isn't for everyone. It's just telling their story honestly. And when a filmmaker trusts their own memory, their family, their friendships, their past, making it become their present, I think it tends to last like that. We need that warmth. We need that specificness. We need that honesty. We need that legacy to be put on screen and to be put into our hearts. And even then, you can see the influence from Crooklyn in later films and later movies about childhood and memory, how they have the flashbacks and going from place to place, changing camera angles. That was all because of what Crooklyn did and the foundation that Crooklyn set. But even with them not biting the style but paying homage to Crooklyn, this movie to me still stands on its own tier. And that tier is at the top. I want to make sure I say this before I go. Why I made this podcast. I circle back to this a lot. So this is my second podcast. As I said before, I also have Magic Movies and Melanin with my co-host TT. Shout out to TT. But for the Cinematic Soul, this movie, Crooklyn, is part of the reason why I started the Cinematic Soul podcast. I wanted to talk about films that feel like this, that feel like home. Films that don't really scream at you. They don't rely on spectacle for the most part, right? Because some of them do. They understand that everyday life is worthy of the frame, is worthy of being captured, and those stories should be told. I remember being a kid watching this and not really having the words to say why I love this movie. But now I think I do. For me, it's the light in the brownstone. It's the kids on the block. It's to going to the grocery store with your food stamps and stealing food, which is crazy, but memorable. It's Aunt Song finding out that Queenie is dead inside the couch. Rest in peace to Queenie, my baby. The sweet dog just jumped out. Oh my goodness. It's all those things. It's Woody chasing his music even when it hurts. Carolyn trying to hold it all together. Troy stepping in to this new world that doesn't fit. Much like Back Home didn't fit. But she still found her way. That's poetic to me. That's the soul. That's the heart. And that's why we talk about it. If you haven't seen Crooklyn, I gotta say, why are you here? Because this podcast is very specific. And if you haven't seen Crooklyn, please watch it. Pause this wherever you are. Go watch Crooklyn. If you have seen it, watch it again. Sit with it again. Give it a more intentional gaze this time. Pay attention to the way that Brooklyn looks warm and alive. Pay attention to how Virginia stretches in those frames. How Aunt Song is different from Carolyn. Pay attention to the quietness and the tone changes after Carolyn gets sick. Let that all sit with you. That's cinema, baby. And we're here on this here podcast for the cinema. Thank y'all for listening. And as always, stay black, stay magical, and keep the soul in cinema alive. Peace and love, y'all.
Amen. 1, 2, 3, the devil's after me. 4, 5, 6, he's always